Welcome to Woman on Her Path. Every woman has her own unique path. But what does that mean? How does said woman know what her path is? How does she find the courage to follow her path? I am your host, Tiffany Cooper. I am a mother, energy worker, community herbalist, and bhakti yogi. By sharing my experiences and insights on my path, I hope to inspire and encourage you on yours. When we follow our path, we find the answers we need in life. Let's find answers together and create a better world for ourselves and those around us. Well, woman, we meet again. How are you? What's going on in your life? How are you changing and growing? How are you healing? What is your relationship with life like? In today's episode of Woman on Her Path, we're talking about exactly that, our relationship with life. When we hear the word relationship, our minds tend to go toward a romantic partner. That seems to be the most prominent relationship talked about in our society. But what if we paid more attention to our relationship with life and our place in it? What if we stopped judging ourselves and allowing others to judge us based on our romantic relationship status? What if we shifted that outlook toward our relationship with life? If we have a healthy relationship with life, then all other relationships will follow suit. But somehow, it always comes back to our relationship with a romantic partner, as if that is all that matters in life. So, to all the single women out there, let's talk about singlehood, or better yet, singledom. Yeah, I like that better. Singledom, a woman's personal domain of being single. First, let me start by saying that I have been divorced for a very long time. To be honest, I have not counted exactly how long because I don't keep track of those kinds of things. I can give you a roundabout number, like I have a roundabout number for the ages of my 2 cats. I have a roundabout number for the number of years I've lived in the state that I currently reside in. In fact, for most of my adult life, the only way I could remember my own age was to take my ex-husband's age and subtract the numbers of years older than me he is. Anyway, for most of the many, many years I've been divorced, I have been single. And I have been single for various reasons. In the beginning, it was because the thought of having another man around my children made me sick. Then, as my children got older, the thought of bringing another man around them made me sick. Really, that was a huge thing for me for a very long time. Then the idea of dating seemed ridiculous. I am a grown woman and I know what I want and most importantly, what I don't want. So why waste time? Wasting time is one of my least favorite things to do in life. So why waste time going out with a list of men and leaving a trail of complicated and unfulfilling relationships in my wake? Then, of course, there is life in the suburbs. The suburbs is not exactly the place to meet many interesting single men. But the main reason that I have been single all these years is that I didn't realize I was single. Yep, it's really that simple. Being single for me was never something that needed to be changed or fixed. Before I met my ex-husband and after we ended things, I always loved being single. I never thought my purpose in life was to find a partner. I never judged my life by whether or not I had a partner. It just never occurred to me until recently. Recently, I have gotten quite the education on how people think about those of us who are single. Technology has turned a person's relationship status into a huge market. There are dating apps, dating coaches, matchmakers, and social media memes that have turned being single into a thing. Or more precisely, a frenzied and negative thing, especially for women. Now, there has always been the expectation that a woman will want to get married. For most of history, it was the only way she could survive. When the 1970s rolled around and women went to work full-time on force, we began to have more choices. Society has always created ways to bully women into marriage. For instance, allowing her little to no legal rights on her own, or only allowing her to do certain things with the co-signature of a husband, like open a bank account or a line of credit. Even today in the suburbs, it is not unheard of for a woman to be told that she should just wait for her husband to get home to take care of things in the house. And let's not forget about how single women have been talked about in society. Single women have been called spinsters, old maids, or crazy cat ladies, and looked at as if something was wrong with them. It was always there, but today it has reached a fevered pitch. I actually tried a dating app for 3 months. I went through a phase where I thought it would be fun to meet a companion, someone to chat with and share a meal with from time to time. But I quickly learned that dating apps are not for me. The first few days, it took some time to get the lay of the land and figure out how things worked on it. I didn't like that I could only write a short profile to say who I was. I mean, how can you determine if you want to meet someone just by a few words? By day 3, I was already disgusted by the fact that I had noticed that I was objectifying men. Actually, the app was set up for exactly that. You get to see photos of men, which I finally figured out were often posed for what they thought was maximum effect. They would be holding a puppy or a baby, and of course, I just swiped right by those. But you see these photos and you judge them by the photo with little else to go on. It takes more than good looks to build a relationship. I chose this particular app because I read in an article that it gave women more control over meeting someone than the other apps did. I did like that I could be completely hidden so that the only men who got to see my profile were the ones I sent a message to. The thought of hundreds of men looking at my profile and objectifying me made me feel sick. Ultimately, once I saw how it all worked, I realized it was just another good old-fashioned meat market. I have learned that this is dating for younger generations. Apparently, gone are the days of meeting someone nice at the bookstore, local cafe, or even the supermarket. Technology has made it too awkward for people to connect without it. Social skills have been reduced to how quickly you can take a cute selfie in an exotic location and compose a pithy description of what you are doing. The importance of looking into someone's eyes, watching their body language, getting past those first uncomfortable moments, which allow us to really see someone and see how our energy reacts to touching theirs, is forgotten. We cannot be social if we don't know how to be with others. And from what I've seen on social media, it can be a place where people are largely anti-social. They don't know how to properly communicate with others. They don't know how to treat people with respect. They don't know how to accept others' opinions without attacking them. They don't know how to simply be kind to one another. Technology has created some of the last places where I would want to meet someone. It also concerns me that technology has made an unhealthy game of dating. When I was young, fun, and living in New York City, I had a ball dating. Until I decided not to date anymore because I didn't want a relationship at the time and I wanted to put my energy toward my career. But with apps, everything moves so fast. You can go on multiple dates in a short period of time and never really know who you're dating because another date is lined up with someone else before the first date is even over. People aren't really dating or making connections with each other. They are just playing a game on their phones, using other people to score points. But being single is not about dating. There is nothing wrong with dating if that's what you choose for yourself, but it is not required. I love my singledom. Being single gives me the freedom to explore life unencumbered. It gives me the space to be my whole entire self without having to take into consideration what someone else, besides the three precious beings that I gave birth to, what someone else desires. Some would say that that is selfish. I would say that that accusation is bullshit. It is meant to put me and any other woman for that matter in our so-called place. Calling a woman selfish for wanting to be in her own energy and make her own decisions is simply a device to control her. Most of the time, when a woman does something without the certified stamp of approval from mainstream society, people start whipping out all kinds of devices. Devices like feminist or demanding, difficult, bitch, or any other derogatory term they can come up with to get her under control. Of course, societies need structure to survive, and we all have our roles to play in that structure. But those roles must be based on a person's capabilities and not some generalized characterization of what others think they should be. That will never work. We don't all fit into a particular mold. We are all individuals. Anyway, there is nothing selfish about being a complete and satisfied human being. In reality, it is the way we can all best contribute to society without bringing in a bunch of unnecessary baggage that would take up too much space. With all of that said, I do not mean to sound as though I'm opposed to relationships. There have absolutely been times in my life when I have chosen not to have a partner. But there have also been times when it was right for me, and many of those times have been beautiful. Whether I have a partner or not has no effect on whether I truly live my life. Being single does not prevent me from doing things that I enjoy or contributing to communities that I am part of. I have had some adventurous relationships, and I have always relished the benefits of being able to do things on my own when I was single. Just recently, I was commiserating with another woman about how much fun it is to travel alone. When you travel alone, you meet so many interesting people, and you have so many profound conversations. Conversations that you would not have if you were in a little unit with someone who was taking up most of your attention. When you travel alone, you get to see things from your own perspective without the lens of someone else's opinion, giving you a more pure experience. When you travel alone, you often get special treatment, like free things or just a little something extra than what you asked for. You get to be on your own schedule and do, eat, and see what you want and not have to negotiate with a companion who wants something different. All of the things I just mentioned about traveling also apply to daily life. My singledom gives me space and time to do the things that I like to do without having to make compromises because someone else wants to do something different. I don't have to explain myself or my activities to anyone. I can just go ahead and do what suits me. I can blast my music in my home without someone asking me to turn it down. I can eat what I fancy for dinner without taking into account if someone else will like what I make. I can go on vacation wherever I want without consulting with someone else. I can live my life without the constant judgment of someone else. I don't have to go to functions for someone else or spend time with someone else's friends who I don't have much in common with. Someday that may change, but for now I am absorbing every precious moment of this freedom. I often hear people talking about being lonely as a single person, as if that only applies to singles. People in couples get lonely too. The most excruciating loneliness is the loneliness you feel when you have a partner. To be close to someone, yet so far away, can feel so incongruent and painful. You can't even wrap your head around it. Being single can also be a blame game or a catch-22. It becomes an excuse for everything that is going wrong, in quotation marks, for a person. The reason you're not happy is because you're single. You can't go to particular places because you're single. You can't participate in certain activities because you're single. I mean, come on. Then, of course, the person who is single is to blame for being single. If you just went out more, you wouldn't be single. If you just dressed differently or wore your hair differently or changed your personality, blah, blah, blah. Both scenarios of blame that I highlighted are completely wrong. There is nothing wrong with a person being single. It is actually natural and realistic for people to be single. Not every adult human being in the world will have a partner. The problem is that we live in societies that put romance on a pedestal. As children, we hear fairy tales about a princess being saved by a prince. A large proportion of movies we watch and songs we listen to are about romance or relationships. The topic of many conversations is romance or relationships. We focus so much attention on romantic relationships that it's practically an obsession. Years ago, I read a book called Marriage, a History, written by a female historian, which I found to be very funny. Now, if I remember correctly, the book explained that romance did not enter into the picture of marriage until the turn of the 19th century. Before that, marriage was about agreements, survival, merging of clans or families to solidify power. It was not about romance or emotions. I often think of countries that have had arranged marriages. Contrary to what people in Western countries think, arranged marriages are not all bad. Many have resulted in loving, happy families. And I honestly think mainly because those cultures taught people how to be part of a family. In Western cultures, we ignore the basic facts of life and do not raise children with the practical lessons of how to live a healthy life. For instance, most women know nothing about giving birth to a child until we are about to do it ourselves. Girls know little about menstrual cycles until the day comes when they notice a little blood in their underwear. Children are taught little about the development of their own bodies until they are already in the midst of uncomfortable and sometimes even scary puberty when changes start to happen in their bodies. Grown women know only a few unpleasant things about menopause. Some have never even heard of perimenopause. This all leaves them dreading the whole thing when it could be welcoming and empowering. In fact, to talk about these things is often taboo. They are only mentioned in hushed tones or forums specifically arranged just to talk about them. I believe this comes from the male perspective or discomfort of them, and the fact that we have been living in a masculine energy dominant world for the last 5,000 years. They are natural parts of life, and we should understand them and have a realistic and positive view of them. So getting back to marriage. Marriage is not the epitome of our existence. It is only part of it, if we choose it. If we do not choose it, oh well. Like everything in life, we have a choice of what is right for us. Some of us choose to wear dresses to work. Others of us choose to wear pants. Some of us choose to live in cities. Some of us choose to live in the suburbs or more rural areas. We are all different. We do not have to follow the same prescription for how to be a woman. We are women, and we don't have to prove that to anyone.
No games to play, 'cause you're not fair, my friend. You play no fair, this game no place.
Woman, what are you doing with your single life? Are you so busy trying to find a partner that you are missing out on opportunities? Are you denying yourself things because you feel unworthy of them since you are single? Are you bitter when you see a happy couple and wonder what you have done to be condemned to a life of singlehood? Let's look at these things. First, our lives are meant to be lived whether we have partners or not. Whether we are traveling the world or staying home and learning how to bake, we do not have to put our lives on hold. Life is so very short that if we stay focused on only one small part of our lives, it will all be over before we know it. People who are in couples are not more important than you. They are not better than you. They are not happier than you. They do not know some mystical secret to becoming fulfilled. They are just individuals who have found one another and decided to be together. Remember that just because they are together does not mean they are happy. Couples often stay together for reasons that they think are necessary, but are in reality unhealthy. When my ex-husband and I first split up, I was surprised by the number of married friends who came to me with the attitude of, "You are so lucky you got out alive. I wish I could do the same." You are not condemned when you are single while it seems like everyone else is coupled. People get into relationships for many different reasons. Sometimes they just don't want to be alone. Sometimes they succumb to the pressure of society or those around them. Sometimes they think it makes them look better to be with someone. Sometimes they don't even make a conscious choice, but do it because it's available. Women, how many times have you gone on dates with men that you weren't necessarily interested in, but they asked you out and you said yes anyway? You are not obligated to date someone just because they ask. When going on a date or being in a relationship is a conscious choice, then it has meaning. Otherwise, it's a waste of time. Wouldn't you rather be with someone because you truly want to make a commitment? Wouldn't you prefer a partner who you truly have a connection with? I have talked to so many women who are wrapped up in trying to make an unhealthy relationship work without even thinking about why they are trying to make it work. Sometimes they do it because they think it's what is expected of them. Of course, all relationships require work. All relationships go through difficult stages. Not all relationships are meant to be. Going back to what I said in the last segment about people not learning the practical things in life, We are not taught what to expect out of relationships or marriage. We are not taught basic conflict resolution or any of the skills to create healthy relationships. Instead, we expect relationships to be like some rom-com or a Disney film. So rather than living in some illusion, why not create your own single domain? A personal space where you feel nourished, accomplished, and at peace. Why not spend your time doing things you love and things that challenge you? Things that make you a more well-rounded human being. Spend your time exploring and learning who you truly are. Practice being your genuine self for yourself. Make yourself happy. If or when that day comes that you meet someone that you want to have a relationship with, you will be in a much better position to do so. You won't be looking for someone to impossibly fulfill your needs. Only you can make yourself truly happy and fulfill your needs. An added benefit is if you decide you want a relationship, you will attract someone who is already happy and healthy like you, which will give you a greater chance at building a lasting relationship. You are a complete individual, all on your own. You don't need someone else to make you whole. Having a partner is the icing on what can be a very yummy cake, but it isn't all of the sweet gooiness of life. Waiting is a valiant thing for those who like to run. For those of us who like to live, waiting is no fun. We can think of 1,000 things and do 1,000,000 more, while waiters sit and contemplate what's on the other side of the door. We can open windows wide, let bright sunshine in, but waiting you begin to wither, slowly growing thin. From lack of sun and lack of life and lack of food for soul, within your heart, within your mind, there begins to grow a hole. You sit and wait for them to be filled while slowly wasting time. And then you start to wonder why and even begin to whine. To fill the holes inside of you, you have to live your dreams. But first, you have to put effort into finding what that means. You have to look inside yourself to see just what you really need. You have to step outside of fear to plant a fulfilling seed. So when you decide to end your wait, to finally come out and play, a garden full of color and light will lovingly grace the day. Woman, if you have bad feelings about being single, what are you doing about them? Are you wallowing in self-pity, or are you spending time with friends who help you feel better? Are you paying attention to the ignorant things that people say about single women on social media, or are you filling your mind with the exciting things that you have been dying to learn? Are you watching those stupid movies that portray single women as sad, lonely, awkward, desperate, or bitter? I mean, I can't even name any of them right now because I don't watch those kinds of films, but I have a suspicion of which ones they are just from seeing the trailers. I know I'm a little off topic, but my son recently invited me to see Jaws in IMAX. It was the first time that I'd been to the movies in ages. And we saw a trailer for The Woman King. And oh my goodness, I am definitely going back to see that. Let me know if you want to go with me. They could have come up with a better title, but kudos to Viola Davis for taking on such a strong role and showing that a woman in midlife can still be a powerhouse. It looks like my kind of movie. I love a good battle scene, especially when they feature women. And a female director? Oh yes, I am all in. Anyway, all of that to say, watch something uplifting instead. Tailor your environment to encourage you rather than pull you down in the dumps. Surround yourself with things that show you how nourishing being single is instead of making you feel bad about it. Create your own singledom. Your personal domain of your customized single life. Delve into the things that interest you and pay homage to them in simple ways. For example, I was born a bibliophile. So I have books all around my house full of those sticky tabs for almost everything I am interested in. I pull them out when I want a reminder of how magical that particular thing is. Not that you have to go out and spend a lot of money on collecting books, but you can have a few that represent your favorite things on display as a pleasant reminder. I have a lovely book on the Appalachian Trail because I have been planning to hike more of it, but keep getting sidetracked by other adventures. But even more inspiring is the map of the trail that I have hanging on my bedroom wall. I wink at it almost every day, thinking of the adventure I'll have when I get back to it. The best thing about having books when you're single is that whenever you want to read, you can, without someone asking you to turn out the lights so they can go to sleep, or trying to talk you into going out when you really just want to stay home and cuddle up with your favorite book. Make sure your hobbies are easily accessible and in full view. If you like to paint, be sure to hang your own paintings and have supplies artfully displayed to entice you to use them. If you like to garden, put something out that reminds you of it. If you like to hike, put your hiking boots by the front door, if it's not too inconvenient to have them there. It will remind you to use them to get out and commune with nature. Play your favorite music in your home. Play yogic chants in your home. Cook or bake things that will fill your home with delicious fragrances. Buy yourself flowers. I have always bought fresh flowers for my home. Decorate your home in a way that is a reflection of you. My spiritual life is what inspires me most, and my house is a total reflection of that. I have photos of my favorite deities from my favorite temples hanging all around. I have my favorite sacred texts and other books about bhakti everywhere. I have a mural of photos from my trip to India. In my old house, I had 4 separate altars. One for bhakti, one for my ancestors, one for shamanism, and one for my yoga asana practice. Now that I'm in a smaller home, I have only one altar, but it is an inspiring reminder just to see it. Now, admittedly, this is not a problem for me, but if you have friends who seem to only want to talk about being single, whether they are also single and want to gripe about it, or if they are in a couple and are constantly asking you if you are dating, tell them you would rather spend your time together talking about something interesting, like how you or they are exploring something new. There are so many things to talk about in the world. Hit them with a "did you know?" question. Something like, did you know that trees in a forest sustain one another through a complex system of underground networks of mycelium of which mushrooms are their fruiting bodies? For those of you who don't know, I recommend reading Finding the Mother Tree by Suzanne Simard or Entangled Life by Merlin Sheldrake. That particular "did you know?" question could branch out to so many interesting topics. The interconnectedness of life. The fact that the deep things about nature that indigenous cultures have always known are finally being recognized by the outside world. They weren't just being sentimental when they said everything is connected. Or that there is so much we don't know about the world we live in, yet we propose that we are so advanced. There are so many fascinating things to talk about, yet somehow we seem to always limit ourselves to the banal. If you find that you run out of things to talk about with people, create a list of topics that you can bring up when the conversation goes dull. With friends, you can even make a game of it. Write down interesting topics of conversation on slips of paper and put those slips of paper in a jar or some other container. Take turns picking a slip and give yourselves 15 minutes to talk about whatever is on the slip that one of you chooses. Keep yourself intellectually and creatively stimulated. You will gain so much in life by doing this, and you won't have time for pity. Remember, the problem is not that you are single. There is nothing wrong with being single. It is a normal part of everybody's life. The problem is that society has taught us that being single is a problem and being in a couple is ideal. Over and over in each episode of this podcast, I have talked about the many wonderful things we could be doing as women, single or not. When we focus on what makes us happy, what makes us feel fulfilled, what makes us feel like a contributing member of a community, then we are not looking at what we don't have. Having a partner can be a beautiful thing. We all need to feel loved and appreciated. But what we fail to realize is that a romantic partner is not the only way to get the love and appreciation we need. If we limit our thinking that way, we will not find true happiness in a relationship. Instead, we will put too much pressure on that relationship if we enter into one, due to our unrealistic expectations. We need to love and appreciate ourselves by accepting ourselves for who we are without shame. and being grateful for the gifts and abilities we have, and using those gifts and abilities to do something positive in our community. I just want to add that recently I had a conversation with a woman who said she didn't have any gifts or abilities. That is impossible. There is no such thing, because every human being on the planet is a special blend of qualities and has something big or small that is unique to them. We may not be cognizant of our gifts or abilities because we are too busy trying to live up to somebody else's standards. Your talents may not be valued by society at large, but that does not mean that they don't exist. Lord knows my unconventional life on the fringe of everything has not been appreciated by everyone. But it is my path. And because I have stayed dedicated to it in all of its evolutions, it has always filled me up. I don't feel that I am lacking as a single woman or anything else. I am grateful for what I have, which isn't nearly as much as some. It is the right amount for me. So release yourself from that feeling of scarcity or unworthiness. There is so much more to you than being someone's partner. Don't miss the opportunities to see exactly what that so much more is. Our relationship with life is the greatest relationship we can have in the material world. It dictates all other relationships in our lives. Like all relationships, it is one that we have to cultivate. If we have a poor relationship with life, where we think it is awful, then that colors the way we look at everything in life. We have a negative perspective on our existence, which affects our connections with everyone and everything else. If we have a good relationship with life and we see it for what it is, a sometimes complicated experience that is full of joys and sorrows, that ultimately has a much greater purpose than our mundane existence, then we see things from a realistic point of view and have meaningful connections with the people and things around us. Our relationship with life is a precursor to every relationship we have, including our relationship with ourselves. If we don't love, respect, have patience with, and compassion for ourselves, then it's not likely that others will show us these things. Sometimes we teach others how to treat us by showing them how we treat ourselves. For instance, when we allow people to mistreat us without standing up for ourselves, then we set a precedence for future interactions with them. We are showing them that we don't respect ourselves enough to say or do anything about it, clearing the way for them to continue mistreating us. Yes, there are definitely times when we have to pick our battles or even let things go. It all depends on our assessment of the situation. But our interactions with people are building blocks, each one leading to another until we establish a relationship. If we treat ourselves well, then just from the energy we emanate, we automatically let others know that we expect the same from them. People react to the energy we put out, which comes from how we feel within. When we take time to get to know ourselves, what we really want, and who we truly are, we realize that we are enough on our own. If someone else has the fortune of becoming our partner, then that is just icing on an already delicious cake. So, single women, that is our podcast for the day. If you want to check out Woman King with me, let me know. Otherwise, I have no qualms about going by myself. I also want to share some exciting news with you. Starting October 7th, Woman on Her Path will be moving to Patreon so that we can build a supportive community of like-minded and uplifting women. There will be monthly discussions about topics mentioned in the podcast and group energy readings for fun guidance on your path. I will continue to release one episode a month for the general public, but all other episodes for the month will be for our group members only, along with other offerings like guided meditations and possibly classes. I'm even working with a beautiful woman I know to plan a retreat to give women an opportunity to unplug, unwind, and recharge. So stay tuned. I can't wait to talk to you next week. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for listening to this show. I hope you found something useful. Like everything in life, we can take what we need and leave the rest. Please feel free to contact me with comments or questions at womanonherpath@gmail.com.